Welcome back, maggots! You know what? No. If you've made it to episode 8, you are no longer a maggot. You are a termite. You are now able to eat wood and cause property damage, and that is something to be proud of, sir! But you still have to learn more events. And in this episode, termite, you will learn about conditions. So you can go fulfill your termite urges, go cause property damage and ruin human lives, then come back and watch the video about conditions, which should be fun or not. It depends, really, on whether you're a masochist or not. So, conditions, just a quick note about conditions before I go on, is that conditions really separate the basic events from the advanced events. I mean, okay, hold on, I'm going to pull up my YouTube right now, and I'm going to just show you something. I made an entire chapter goal, and people have asked me, how did you do that? And the way I did it, okay, check this out. So, somewhere around here is concept for chapter goal, rebuild villages. You can look that up if you like. But here's the thing. Every turn, if you deliver supplies to a village, and after the supplies are delivered, the next turn the village is rebuilt. And how did I do that? It's all conditions. So, we're going to start with the most basic condition, which is for character talk conversations, which we covered in an earlier chapter. So I've already made a talk for Paul and Lynn. So this is what we're going to do. Going to copy that, give it a new event ID, change it to Paul and Lynn, and then I'm going to copy this. This is going to be our condition. And this is the simplest form of conditions. But it gives you a good idea of what conditions are. So let's say we only want Paul to talk to Lynn after Jasmine has talked to Lynn. There we go. The XX there is the event ID of the event that triggers this talk conversation. So here we go, and then I'm going to show you another trick. Let's say we want Paul and Lynn to be able to both initiate the conversation. This is how you do it, because the first parameter there, that one, is the initiating character, and the second one is the receiving character. So, for both to be able to initiate, you have to copy the event, and then just swap those little positions. Alright, so, there is our event. Let's assemble some things. Alright, prologue events, event tutorial, and that's a weird little glitch that I don't like. Nintendo, if you watch the video, why do things have to be divisible by 4? I don't get that. But, nevertheless, it doesn't harm our progress for this video, so let us trek onwards into the realm of condition hacking. Okay, let's check it out. There's Jasmine. There is Paul. So, see, Lynn can't initiate her talk with Paul yet until she's had her talk with Jasmine. And then now, see, voila, you can do the talk. They can have a talk with the same amazing music. Okay. So that is the idea of condition hacking. Is if blank, then blank. If blank doesn't happen, then blank doesn't. Then blank happens or doesn't happen. Alright, so let's get on with making an example of conditions. I think I have an idea of how to fix that glitch too. Just random guesstimate. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the if ET code, which is if event triggered. 0x01. Okay, now this is going to be our condition ID, and this is the event ID a triggered event. Now, okay, so the condition ID, it works a lot like event IDs do. I mean, if a condition ID has been triggered, that condition will be automatically ignored. I think. That sounds... Yeah. Okay. So, but anyways, each condition has to have its own ID. Actually, it's more visible with this. So, each of the... anything in between here, that's enif, end if statement. So, anything in between here, we if event ID 0x20 is triggered, blank will happen. And blank is whatever events you put in between the IFET and the ENIF. Let's say if the event is not triggered, we want something else to happen. Well, you do this, else, and then another conditional ID, and then if event ID 0x20 is not triggered, blank will happen. And blank is, again, anything you put between the else and its ENIF. Now, you don't have to put an else in everything if you just want it to be just like, if the event is triggered, then this happens. If not, nothing happens. So, alright. But this is the basic structure for your events. You just need to make sure each if is closed with an enif. Else is an if, in case you couldn't tell. So else needs to be closed with an enif too. Now, conditions can do a lot of things, and I'll go over the individual codes a bit later in the video. After this, but I have a pre-made example of a condition event. If you'll recall from a couple episodes ago, I used that village conversation, and it was about the drizzle making it rain, or something retarded like that. Okay, so if Lynn... okay, no, check it out. So this is if character. So if a certain character is active when the event is triggered, then this will happen. Or else, if that character is not active, this will happen. Alright, so Lin T is the character who will make the drizzle do his drizzly things. No, it is I, the drizzle, and now it rains because the drizzle is an ass. And then Paul and Jasmine show up. Let's say... okay, now, check it out. If Jasmine or Paul visits the village, something else happens. So that's really events. It's like if this, then blank, if not, then blank. And you just really, one of the hardest part is just watching your syntax, making sure you're closing each if statement, putting your else's above the if, and other than, once you get the idea, hopefully I'm doing a good job of explaining it. But now let's go over some ifs. The other ifs that we have. So I already covered if ET, which is if event ID is triggered. Then if EF, if event ID has not been used. That's basically the opposite of IFET, obviously. If IFHM, if Hector mode is being played, then event will happen. IFEM if Elwood mode, and only if Elwood mode. Okay, so IFYN is for those yes/no prompts. It'll prompt you to say yes or no. So you do IFYN. So I'm going to do an example of that. Let's see. Yes, no. Okay, IFYN. It will only occur after text 1, 0x08, 40, let's say. Then our condition ID will be 7. Okay, so this right here, if yes was chosen. Then enif 0x07. But what about no? What about if you chose no? Else 0x08, enif 0x08. And then this is if no was chosen. Alright, so that one's kind of important. Like, if you have guidance and you're like, well, I should give people a choice if they want to do the guidance, right? I just kind of force it because I'm mean. But IFTT is if it's tutorial modes. That's Lin Easy mode. IFTU is if turn. So this will execute events if the specific turn right there hasn't passed. So let's say you want to activate a Gaiden that only occurs if the player did it in under 15 turns. So you'd put 16 there because the 15th turn, actually 15, because then under 15 turns, and then your data for the ending event, and then the MNCH. So that's basically what that's used for. And then IFUF is if a character is active on the field. So I remember in the chapter of FE7 where you're on the pirate ship, if you field a guy, before the chapter started, you'd be like, oh, I'm so seasick and blah, blah, blah. But if you didn't field him, that event wouldn't happen. So this is the code that does that. Then IFCA, we covered that. That's if the character is active when the event is triggered, as was done with our village conversation. That can be used for quite a multitude of things. But village is a good example. Like, say you want to get a specific item if a character visits a village, and only that character. That's what happens. Or IFCNA executes events if the character is not active when the event is triggered. So that's the opposite of IFCA. And IFCD will be our last code, and that is if the character is dead. And that's pretty self-explanatory, right? If the character has a little death flag next to their data in the memory, then this event will happen. And that has covered all of our events thus far. I mean, all of our conditions. That is every condition in the event assembly language file. Now there are more advanced ones that deal with ASM, but I'm not going to teach those. I think I'm going to call it a lesson. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, and have a good day.